Hello, explorers, and welcome to Reach the World's Explorer program. For more than 25 years, Reach the World has inspired youth to become curious, confident, and compassionate global citizens through virtual exchange. My name is Tim, and today we're journeying to the bottom of the globe with explorer Chelsea Bekemeier and the Cleanest Air on Earth expedition. In just a minute, we'll welcome Chelsea live from aboard the Australian Antarctic Program's research vessel, RSV Nuyina, maybe she can help me learn to pronounce that better, and get a complete update on what she's been doing since we last spoke with her. If you haven't already read Chelsea's outstanding virtual exchange articles, please take a look at the chat area for a direct link to her homepage, which is now full of amazing dispatches from her journey so far. You can also visit reachtheworld.org and search for Cleanest Air on Earth expedition. A warm welcome to the classes that are joining us today, including Mr. Gardner students in Georgia, Ms. Voss students in Colorado, Ms. Ugby students in New York, Ms. Gibson students in North Carolina, and Ms. Wilson students in Rhode Island, just to shout out a few of you. Thank you so much for joining. If you're joining us via YouTube, always feel free to drop your questions and comments for Chelsea in the chat at any time, and we'll fold them into today's event. Okay. Let's welcome Reach the World explorer and atmospheric researcher, Chelsea Bekemeier. That sounded a lot like a stadium introduction, and here she is. Hi, Chelsea. I'm going to get you unmuted here.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It is great to see you, and we have so much to catch up on because the last time we connected live with you, you were in Colorado, and you were just preparing to make a massive journey. We learned a lot about what you were packing and what you were preparing for, and a lot of the stuff you were preparing for has happened, so we have a lot of stuff to catch up with. I thought maybe we could start with a description of your journey from Colorado to Tasmania. What was that like?
Yeah, so it was a long flight. So I actually left February 7th. So I shortly after we did the first live stream, I flew from Colorado to Hobart, Tasmania, and I was there. It was about a full day of traveling, and quite jet lagged once I got there, since it is almost an entire day ahead plus some change, but we were there for about a month before we even got on the boat, just to prepare the ship, get everything installed, make sure all of our shipments were loaded, and do some training with our shipmates, and it was a lot of fun. Hobart is a beautiful city. If anybody ever gets the chance to go there, it is just stunning, and there's so much wildlife. I saw a platypus, which I did not know were in Hobart, which was really cool, and some beautiful birds. And it was a lovely time before we even got on the boat.
Fantastic. Now, I know you went early, before the ship, well before the ship was about to depart. Can you talk to us about what it means to get a ship even ready just to leave the dock, to go out to sea for a couple months? What did you need to do? Were you worried about your supplies getting there on time? Did everything arrive? What was keeping you busy during those days?
Yeah, so for most of the days we did training, which was actually like behind the scenes kind of, you would almost think like a workshop. We did it was almost like classroom style, so they were preparing us for what life would be like on the ship, kind of what our day-to-day would look like if we needed any assistance, preparing us for stuff like that. We had a bunch of team building activities, because if you're stuck on a ship with like only 100 other people, you need to be in good communication with your fellow shipmates. And then about a week and a half before we boarded on the 28th of February, was when we actually started the period called mobilization, which is when they allow us on the boat to start preparing our scientific equipment. So for about a solid week, Kelsey and I were going to the ship every day as it was docked in Hobart in the bay. And we were basically walking up the ship and going to our labs and setting up the equipment. And yes, I was worried about all of my stuff getting there on time, but it got there with plenty of time to spare. I did notice that there were some parts that I was missing, which kind of is how science goes many times. So I actually had to expedite some stuff from the lab back in Colorado, but even that managed to get there a day before I needed it. So everything's gone, knock on wood, fairly smoothly. I can try to show you guys the Met Lab. We have a couple of labs on board. I can try to show you the Met Lab maybe today or next time. But yeah, it was a lot of hard work. We were on the boat for like maybe 10 to 12 hours, so not a whole lot of downtime. It was a very intense week, getting everything set up and making sure that the radars work, and then we would have interference with the radars and we would have to move them, and but we got it all working, and I'm really grateful for an incredible team, because I could not have done that by myself.
What were your first impressions when you walked aboard the ship? I know it's a big, beautiful new research ship. What did you think as you were walking up the gangplank onto the ship that you are now traveling across the ocean in?
I was mesmerized. I mean, it is a beautiful and massive ship. And I was so excited. Like, I think the running theme for all of us was we're like, just get us on the boat, because a lot of us were there for almost a month before we even had to get on the boat. And we were like, come on, just get us on the boat already. So it was a lot of fun. I will share a funny story. So the port in Hobart is famous for having all kinds of ships come through. And so the first day we had a tiny ship that was parked next to the Nuyina. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's so huge. Like this ship is insane. And then the next day we come back and there's this giant cruise liner sitting right next to the Nuyina. And it looked so small in comparison to this giant cruise liner. So I was like, okay, maybe my perspective's off a little bit in terms of how big ships are. But it is a pretty large ship, especially for an investigative ship. Like, I'm still getting lost, and we've been here almost 2 weeks. So that's a good sign, because that means I still have stuff to find.
What are a few things that surprised you about the ship as you've been exploring it? Like, what maybe did you expect to find that you
cutting out?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Okay, now I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, it's a good reminder. Chelsea is on the other side of the earth from us right now, across the hemisphere, and also in the southern hemisphere. So there might be a little delay in our communication today. But Chelsea, my question was, like, what surprised you the most about the ship? What were you expecting versus what the reality of living and working on a ship has been so far?
So somebody else asked me this question the other day, which is really funny, one of the other shipmates. And I don't know if you're going to like my answer, but the funniest part to me was that I didn't get seasick. Because a lot of people got seasick, and I am very, very grateful that I didn't get seasick. So that was probably the thing that surprised me the most. And just that the Nuyina is such a massive, intricate ship that I'm always getting lost here.
Well, that's great. That is a superpower, not getting seasick at sea. So congratulations. I'm very happy for you.
Thanks.
Fabulous. And I want to ask one more question before we let some of our friends at Sunset Park, New York, ask a couple questions before they have to go for the day. How have things been going so far? Or do you feel like you're starting to collect data, or you're still getting to where you want to collect data?
Yeah, so our team has been really fortunate in that all of our systems were pretty much online from the time that we left port. So I've been taking filter samples every day, as well as we have the different radars available to us. And we have the air chemistry lab. So we've already acquired a lot of data. The funny part, and you'll read this in the field log, is we still have not made it to the Denman Glacier yet. And that's mainly because we've hit some really bad weather out in the Southern Ocean, which is to be expected. But we've kind of been sitting through blizzards the last few days and really, really rough seas. So if you look on the pictures, it's kind of a zigzag track where we're just waiting out the storm, and then we decide to go north because there was another bad low pressure system moving through. So I'm hoping that we get to our really good site this weekend, but some of the other teams have not been able to collect as much data because we haven't been in the spots that they need to collect it at. But our team has been really lucky that we thankfully we like bad weather, so we've been collecting the whole time.
Very fortunate. Excellent. Well, Class 302 in Sunset Park, I'm going to bring you on the stage and give you a chance to say hi to Chelsea before you have to go for the day. If you could tilt your camera down just a little bit, we can see the tips of your fingers, but not the rest of you. And if you have any questions before you have to go for the day, we could take a couple student questions. So any brave individuals? Oh, I see some hands. Great.
Loud. Yes. Loud. Layla?
I wondered, since I've been doing research about emperor penguins, have you seen like any emperor penguins?
Did you hear her?
Yes, I did. I have not seen any penguins yet, and I really, really am hoping to, as soon as we get closer to the continent, I really want to see a penguin. That's like the whole goal of the trip.
Okay.
Shirley?
Is it like cold where you're at?
Is it cold where you're at?
Yeah, it's pretty cold. It hasn't been anything crazy yet. I think we had kind of like negative 10 Celsius at one point when we were getting cold. Yeah, so I guess it is pretty cold, but not Antarctic cold yet. And we had a blizzard come through, and they advised us not to go outside, but I went outside for a couple of seconds, and it was cold.
Anybody else?
You got it. You do it for the science.
Yeah. Andy?
Do you have meetings after the day or
Before the day?
before the day?
Oh, he wants to know if you have meetings before the day starts or after the day has ended.
So that's a good question. The funny answer about ship life is there's no really set day. So I guess the answer is we're in meetings and stuff all day, every day. For example, it's 1 a.m. here for me right now. And then we also do, we do CTDs, which is our conductivity temperature depth profiler, and we'll drop it in the ocean. And we do that at all times of day. So it could be early in the morning. It could be, I think they just had one come up right before I hopped on this call. So any time of night.
Oh, wow. Okay. Allison?
How cold? What's the lowest temperature where you're at that you've experienced?
Probably that -10 with the wind chill was the lowest I've experienced here so
That's
far.
the lowest you've experienced. Okay, we're gonna take one last one because we have to start getting ready.
Okay, great.
Delilah?
Do you wear thick clothing when it's like really, really cold?
So if they're asking about your clothing, like is it really thick clothing? You know, is it layering? What is
Yes. Yeah, so the people we work with, the Australian Antarctic Division, gives us a full, like, complete setup that's really nice for Antarctica. So it's lots of layers, and it's a really nice, big, puffy jacket. I wish I could take it home with me, but of course we're not allowed to. But it's wonderful, high quality clothing to keep us warm.
Okay.
All right, class 302, thank you so much for joining us at the end of your day. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
All right, I'm going to move them in the backstage. And don't worry, Miss Wilson's class and Stephen Scott School, we're going to give you a chance to ask questions too. In fact, while we're paused, maybe I'll bring you up. Let's go, Miss Wilson's class. Are there any questions offhand while we've got you?
Okay.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
can I object for dismissal, please?
Yes, you can. So sorry.
Perfect timing.
Sadie, why don't you ask your question? Go ahead.
So what inspired you to go on this trip? Like, is there anything other than the science research that you want to do or that made you want to come?
Yeah, I have always wanted to go to Antarctica. Since I was little, I have always dreamed of kind of being an explorer, and so this was a dream come true. It kind of fell in my lap, and I'm really grateful because this is a bucket list item for sure.
Yeah, okay. Lily, come on up here so she can hear.
How long will you be in Antarctica for?
So we will be here until I believe early May. So we'll begin our transit back early May. So we're here for like almost a month and a half. Or I guess almost 2 months.
Let's take one more question from Miss Wilson's class. I see your hand up. Stephen Scott School will come to you next.
Logan, come on up, sir.
How many researchers are on the vessel?
Yes, I believe there are 70 of us. Yeah, 70 scientists, and then I think around the same amount of crew, maybe less crew.
Okay, thank you so much for answering some of our questions.
Of course, we'll come back to you. So anyone else who has their hand raised, keep your question on your top of your mind, and we'll come right back to you. And Stephen Scott School, last but certainly not least, I saw your hand up. Thank you for being patient. I love your flag in the background. Looks awesome. Go ahead with your question.
What was your favorite part of Antarctica?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I don't know. It's so, it's one of those things where all of it is just overwhelmingly beautiful. The icebergs have been incredible. We've also seen humpback whales already, and some beautiful birds. So it's a hard one. I will have to say so far, like the glaciers themselves are really interesting because some of the parts of them are blue that are older because they've been compressed for so long that there's no longer air bubbles. So it reflects light differently. And I think that that's really cool because you can like see how old these glaciers are, or I guess icebergs and glaciers do it too.
Do you want to ask one more question while you're up on the screen, Stephen Scott School? You good for now?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll come back to you. This isn't your only chance. Chelsea, I wanted to see if while we have you and while the students are still with us, is it possible to see the lab a little bit?
Yeah, so it might be a little crazy while I'm walking you around, but by crazy, I just mean my laptop.
I'll go off screen. I'll go off screen, but I'll still be here and you can just sort of narrate where you're taking us.
Is there a way to reverse the camera? Do you know, or?
Not sure about your
Okay, I'll just
device.
carry it around.
Maybe not.
All right. So, how do I unblur the background? All right. So we are walking around. This is one of our conference rooms. Yeah, it still seems to be blurred. Do you know how to make it unblurred? Can you guys see this? So this is, the whole ship is connected by a lot of stairs. So I get my ample steps in every day walking up and down these many, many flights of stairs. And then...
Chelsea, can I just pause you for a second? It still looks a little blurry. Can we try for just a couple more seconds to get the blur
Oh, yeah.
out?
It says my background is not blurred, but...
Okay, it might just be sort of the connection. That's totally fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, everybody's asleep, so the observation lounge is actually pretty dark right now. So it's gonna get really loud. But this is the Met Lab. I don't know why it's... So here we have like... So these are part of my pumps, which regulate how much air I'm pulling through for the filters. And then we have... I don't know if you can see them.
Yeah, Chelsea, I'm working in the background here to see what we can do about the blurred background. It still is pretty blurry. Anything that's out. Do you want to try and turn your camera off once and then turn it back on?
I'm sorry. 1 second. I cannot hear you with the pumps. What was that?
No worries. No worries. Do you want to try to turn your camera off once and turn it back on again so we can see if we can get that
Yeah, let me try.
the blur off?
No.
Huh. All right. Well, I think it's still great to see a tour of the lab, but we'll follow up with an album on your Journey homepage with some still photos of what you're showing us today so that we can look at what you're showing us with a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I apologize. It says every time I check.
All right, we're just seem to be temporarily frozen with Chelsea, which I sort of expected for today. She's a long way away from us.
It's not blurring my background, but clearly it's lying to me.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. I feel lucky that we can connect with you when you're so far away from us. We just need a minute for your video feed to sort of catch up with the internet, and then I think we'll be good to go again. There you go.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Yeah, we'll take some pictures maybe, and we can share some pictures as an album, and then for our next live stream, we can walk around the lab and take a closer look.
Sounds good.
Yeah, maybe I can ask before we go back for some more student questions. What is just beyond the work part of living on the ship? What's the leisure part like? What do you do with your free time? Do you have free time? Where do you eat? What do you do? What are your hobbies? How do you sort of spend the time you're not working?
Yeah, so we do work a lot, but we do get a lot of downtime as well. And that's kind of one of the things about being on a ship for so long is they are making it a big point for us to like have to relax since we don't want to burn out early on into the voyage. So there are a lot of little things that we can do. Like I'm a part of a group that does yoga every day. We used to do it on the helipad until the helipad started to freeze. So now we do it in the theater every day, which is really nice. There's a lovely gym on board with like everything you could want for a small gym. And so I try to hit the gym. a couple times a week. The mess hall or the galley is one of the best parts about being on a ship. If you ever get to go on the ship, the food is what keeps everybody happy. So those meal times are kind of what we all look forward to, and because it lets us connect and sit down and have a nice hot meal. And the chefs on board the Nuyina are incredible, like some of the best food I've ever had. Which is really nice when you're all the way at the end of the world. So yeah, lots of stuff to do. We have an observation deck, which is what I walked through. So I hope I can figure out why it's blurring my background so I can show you next time. But we have board games, we have an entire library, we have crafts. So basically anything you could want, we have on board. We also do movie nights sometimes. So yeah, I would say it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of like work hard, play hard mentality kind of.
Great. Something you said inspired a question from our friends at the Stephen Scott School. So I'm going to bring them back on camera. And I saw your hand. You're waiting so nicely to ask your question. Please go ahead.
So what's the best part of the ship?
Best part? That's hard. Let me think about that. I would say the heli deck, which is kind of like the back. That's where we launch the balloons from every day too. So I feel really lucky because there have been a lot of times where the bridge, so everybody that controls what happens on the boat, they'll be like, nobody goes on the helipad except the atmospheric team because we have a reason to be there. And it's a great way to start your morning because you can see the sunrise, and it's quite beautiful and peaceful out there.
All right, great question. Do you have another question while we've got you up on the screen? No? Good.
Sharks.
Oh, sharks. Have you seen any sharks?
I have not seen any sharks. Yeah, I don't. I think we're good out here as far as the sharks are concerned. But I also am not a marine biologist, so who knows what we can find out here.
Great questions. I'm going to move you to the backstage. And Chelsea, I have something we can try to get rid of your background blur. On the bottom of your screen where it says settings, it opens up sort of settings area where for camera, I believe you have the option to click virtual background and move it to none.
Yeah, that I have it on none.
It's not working. Okay,
That's what's
it was worth a try. Worth a try.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Mrs. Wilson's class. Hello again. I see some more hands up, so let's get through some more of these wonderful questions.
Okay, go ahead. What is that balloon on your logo, and what does it do?
Oh, the balloon. So the balloon is called a radio sonde. So it's a device that we launch twice a day. So we do it at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Unless there's interesting weather, and then we'll do more launches. But what we do is we attach the radio sonde, which measures temperature, pressure, water vapor, and basically any meteorological parameter we could want. It's like a little computer kind of, and we attach it to a balloon so that it goes to the upper atmosphere, and as it's going up, it creates a profile for us so we can see what the atmosphere looks like from the ground.
That is so cool. So
Very cool. Good question. Great. Go ahead, please.
So my question is, do you know how soluble the water is there?
How soluble? Are you talking about like salinity? I guess.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty salty. I actually think here I can look that up for you right now. I think it is pretty. It's fairly salty, but we have a lot of runoff from the continent. So a lot of those glaciers, which are more freshwater, so it's probably less salty than you're going to find in like the Gulf of Mexico. and other coastal places. But yeah, I can try to look that up if you're interested.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good point, though, that one of the reasons you're there, Chelsea, is because of the vicinity of lots of ice flows and ice, fresh water that's entering into the ocean. So that may have an impact. All right, next question.
Hi, my name's Nathan. Have you seen any orcas yet?
No, we haven't seen orcas, but we saw like 4 humpback whales that were playing with the boat. I think like 5 days ago, and it was incredible.
What do you mean when you say they were playing with the boat?
So it was really funny. We had stopped, I think, to try to do a rock dredge, which is where they have this like kind of like cage and sharp stuff, and they drop it to the bottom, and then they bring up a bunch of rocks. So we had stopped the boat for that, and we have this echo sounder typically going, which maps the ocean floor. But you're not allowed to have it if there's any like whales, because it can damage the hearing of the whales. So we always have a 24/7 whale observing program going on. And somebody, while we were stopped, they were like, there's these whales. And sure enough, there was like 4 of them, and they just kept doing laps around the boat. And I swear they were performing for us for like 4 hours before they left. I mean, they were there for, and they were like 20 meters from the boat. Like, they were very curious. It was
How cool.
magical. We turned the echo sounder off to make sure that they were safe. But it was really cool.
Very cool. Next question, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Pearl, and so did you go on Drake's Passage? And if you did, what was it like?
So Drake's Passage is actually under Argentina. So that's kind of, that's one way to get to West Antarctica, which is the other side. So technically I did not go through Drake's Passage. We came through the Indian Ocean. Well, actually we did technically Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, Southern Ocean to get here. And I will say that the Southern Ocean has lived up to its name in being very rough. But I am grateful that I have a strong stomach.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was wondering how many different studies that your team is doing.
Oh, that's a good question. So my team in particular has, I guess, like almost 10 different, we have 10 different instruments, which could be 10 different projects entirely. And there's 4 researchers on my team, and we're all doing slightly different projects. So yeah, there's always a lot of different science going on, but in a way it feeds all together. Like, I'll probably be using some of the radar data, and Kelsey might be using some of my data, and vice versa.
Okay.
Great question. Let's take.
I was going to
Go
say,
ahead.
we're going to keep going unless you stop us. So
Yeah, sure.
a lot of questions.
Let's take one more question from Miss Wilson's class, and then I see a hand raised at Stephen Scott School, so we'll switch over.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Michael, and I was wondering, what's your favorite sea animal?
Oh, that's hard too. I don't know. They're all great. I don't know. I kind of like this. This is weird. I kind of like the anglerfish because they're so mysterious, and especially the one that swam to the surface. It was kind of inspired me the other day. Like, I don't know. They're kind of just very interesting. The fact that they can withstand that much pressure at the bottom of the ocean, like, it's incredible.
Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful question. I'll move you guys backstage, and Stephen Scott School, let's bring you up. Thank you for your patience. Go ahead with your questions.
So Like, what is it like to be there?
It is, that's a great question, because there are days where it feels very normal. Like, I just feel like, oh, I'm in the lab all day. Like, this is my job at home. And then I'll go outside and I'll be like, wait, I'm in Antarctica. And then I'll just have a moment of being like, wow, this is an incredible, like, groundbreaking experience. So I would say that mostly it's a little scary. I'm not going to lie. I was a little scared at first. But I am so glad that I did it, and I'm grateful every day for this opportunity. And I'm just so grateful that we get to live on such a cool planet and we get to do science.
I have one more question.
Okay.
The caves that y'all drop down to collect rocks. What's the biggest rock that you ever collected?
Oh, that's a good question. I am not on the sediment team, so I don't know. I do know my friend is, and they said that they found one that I think was like pretty big, like a small boulder. But then they also had like tiny rocks as well.
Excellent. And your classmate's got her hand raised nicely. Go ahead, please, if you have a question.
What is your favorite hobby on the boat?
On the boat, I really like the yoga, mainly because it's hilarious. Because half the time we're falling over while we're doing it, so it's quite the challenge, and it's a good time, and it teaches us to laugh at ourselves. Because normally when I do yoga at home, I'm very like, oh, I have to hold this position, and then on the boat, I'm like, no, it's not happening.
You're probably used to the floor holding still, which is probably makes it easier. Well, thank you, Stephen Scott School, for the great questions. And Chelsea, you put a piece of data in the chat for our friends in Miss Wilson's class. Can you explain what 33.98 PSU salinity means?
Yeah, so that's salinity. I forgot what the PSU stands for, but that's the salinity currently. So we have a system on the ship that is constantly measuring all these parameters of the ocean. So that's the base salinity of the ocean right now. And I'm pretty sure that's comparable to some of the other ocean basins. Yeah, so the Atlantic is around like 37.
Uh-oh. We seem to have lost Chelsea. Maybe she was clicking around on her computer and she clicked the wrong button, but I'm sure she'll be back any moment. She was beginning to explain, and maybe this is a good activity for those of you who are listening. If you'd like to try your hand at the kinds of scientific thinking that Chelsea's doing right now at sea, she has shared in the chat that the salinity of the water in the Southern Ocean, where she is currently 33.89 PSU. And if you want to have your own mini science experiment, you too can go and see, well, what is the salinity of the Atlantic Ocean, which she was just about to tell us before she dropped, or what is the salinity of the Gulf of Mexico, or what is the salinity of the Pacific Ocean, or any other body of water that is a salt water. And you can compare and contrast those. You can answer the question for yourself. Is the Southern Ocean more salty or less salty than other places around the world? And I see Chelsea working her way back in. Maybe her internet signal was briefly interrupted. But as she pops up on camera, I'll bring her back into the conversation. Here she is.
Hey, sorry, I think it got dropped for a second.
It's okay. I was challenging our students today to investigate on their own how the PSU, the salinity reading you shared from the Southern Ocean, compares to other bodies of salt water that might be closer to where they live. So, Chelsea, we have much more to go in our virtual exchange program together. And I wondered if you could give us a little preview of what you expect to see, do, encounter in the next couple weeks at sea.
Yeah, so I am probably most excited and anxious to actually make it to the Denman Glacier, because that's what we're here for, and hopefully the weather will hold out so we get to go and see it. We'll still be taking samples all day, every day, and bringing those back home. And so it's a lot of doing the same work every day. We are going to be doing more CTD collections as well now that we're able to, because when the weather's bad, we can't do any off-ship operations. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more science and getting to actually see the continent and maybe seeing more wildlife, and then having a good time and just exploring,
Excellent. I can't help but notice that the blur is gone from the back of you, so we can see
Oh,
your
yeah.
class and stuff now. It might be a little too late for today, but I do say that we do have some students who would like to ask a couple more questions before we wrap up. So I'm going to bring them on screen, and Miss Wilson's class, take it away.
Oh, my name's Finn, and I have a question for you. In total, how far is your trip?
Oh gosh, I think it's something like 10,000 miles. That's a good question. I remember it being very, very far. Well, I mean, from Colorado, not the ship itself. The ship itself, I'm actually not sure. That's a very good question. I might have to look that up for you.
How fast does the ship go, Chelsea? Do you know?
I don't know. Actually, I might have put it in my log. I think it was something like 14.
It was 25 miles per hour.
25. So, my name's Nick, and I have a
max speed is like 14 to 16.
Knots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, Xavier, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nick. I have a question. Was the boat handmade?
Yes, there's actually a video that I can try to find, and Tim can give it to you guys, of the Nuyina being assembled over the course of like a year, I think in 2017 or 2018.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be very cool.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Cooper. I was wondering, what are the meals like on the ship?
The meals are incredible. We have such a great chef, and I am not lying to you when I say that some of the stuff I've eaten is the best I've ever had. Like, it's incredible. And they also do desserts a couple times a week, and the desserts are just to die for. Like, I always am looking forward to when we have the hot bread pudding, which I guess is a very Australian thing, because I'd never really had bread pudding until I got on the ship, and now it's like date bread pudding, lemon bread pudding, but it's delicious, and it's the food is mwah. I that probably would make me not want to get off, is the food.
Thank you.
That sounds delicious.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Austin. Have you seen any seals before?
We have not, but there is a seal tagging team. So that means that we will definitely be seeing seals. Well, hopefully we will be seeing seals at some point. What they do is they actually attach a little tracker that doesn't hurt the seal, but it's kind of like a GPS, so that they can see where the seals can go, and they can get information for mapping the glaciers and mapping like different parts of the ocean that we can't get to, that the seals can.
That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering, if you were going to see the Southern Lights, what color would you want to see the most?
So we've already seen them, and it was pretty cool. Yes, we did. But I only saw the green. I would really like to see more of the pink. And I'm hoping that we get another couple good displays. But we had a nice little like sneak preview of the Aurora Australis last week. And everybody was so excited. It was really cool.
Thank you.
All right, let's do one more question from Miss Wilson's class, and then we'll switch it over to Stephen Scott School for another final question or two before we let Chelsea go back to sleep, because it is the middle of the night for her. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Sadie. What will you do with the samples when you're done with the experiment?
Great question. So it depends on the instrument. For my filter samples, I will be taking them back to Colorado State University, where I run different tests on them. So everything is being stored in like a negative 80 degrees Celsius freezer to keep it nice and pristine, so that I can ship it back and then run a bunch of tests on it when I get back to Colorado. And then the other stuff like the radars and the radiosondes, we're getting all that data in real time. So that's stuff that we're kind of already starting to analyze.
That's cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Wilson's class, thank you for the wonderful questions. I'm going to move you backstage and bring our friends at Stephen Scott for the final questions of today's live stream event.
I have a question. Do you ever go scuba diving?
Will I go scuba diving? Yes, that's one of my goals. I've been twice, but I don't have a certification. Definitely, they won't let me on this trip. There are some people that do like underwater scuba diving on the continent, but I'm not qualified for that yet. But maybe in the future, you never know. You never know.
Good question. Do you have one more question to finish us off? No, you're all good? All right. Well, before we go then, as we say goodbye to Chelsea, I'm going to bring Miss Wilson's class back up. We can all give Chelsea a big goodbye and thank you. Chelsea.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. I know it is the middle of the night on the ship. It's really nice to check in with you and hear what you've been up to since the last time we talked to you. For all of our watchers, viewers, classrooms, anyone who's joining us today, you'll be happy to know we are far from the end of our virtual exchange with Chelsea and the Cleanest Air on Earth expedition. There will be many more articles and at least one more live stream to go. And during that live stream, we'll figure out how to show you live the lab space, because I know a lot of you are really interested in seeing the scientific processes and things that Chelsea's doing as a scientist aboard the ship as part of this expedition. So Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us today and getting up in the middle of the night. We're very glad to be on this journey with all of you. And until next time, keep exploring and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.